Salman, let's begin with you.
Sure. So I personally believe in the importance of the US classical global role in the world, and that the US national security is an extension to global security, and that the US economic prosperity is an extension to global economic prosperity. Your question kind of reminded me of a question I had before, whether I was worried about Saudi-US relations and its trajectory. And I said, no, I'm not worried about Saudi-US relations. What I'm worried about the most is US-US relations. The polarization, exasperation, and complete mistrust between the two major US parties, I think has reached an unparalleled level in US modern history. And this will subsequently affect the whole global system. So that's why I say the US ship is too big to fail, but too divided to sail. And another thing is that President Biden, his first slogan after winning the elections was, America is back. I can say, yes, America is back, but on the wrong track.
Thank you. Jonathan, do you agree with the assessment that Salman has just expressed?
I do. Generally, I agree with what Salman has said. Just maybe a couple of...
So Salman, how would you react to that? People are going to be very confused.
The Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, I believe personally that he can be considered the best ally and friend for all Western nations, specifically the United States, but they need to deal with him with respect, and they need to deal with him and his nation as a partner, not a follower. It's basically very unfortunate that the current administration in the United States is copying the same exact mistakes of the Obama doctrine, and its one and only known legacy is turning friends into foes and turning foes into friends. And the US far-left ideology has caused a lot of concerns, not only in the Middle East, but in the whole world, just even like with their moral stances, etc. And I don't think their ideology is compatible with human nature or common sense. I can actually say that they are kind of wanting the white to be sorry for his color, and the black to feel victimized, and the men to resent their masculinity, and the women to resent their femininity, and the little children to be indoctrinated with gender orientations, and the families to be deconstructed, and the faith to be mocked, and to twist the freedom of press to be defined only by their moral absolutist understanding. It is indeed that the US worked hard to globalize the world, but it forgot to globalize itself. So I know these things are kind of internal for the United States, but these have repercussions around the world. And when it comes to Saudi-US relations, to answer your question, definitely the Saudi-US alliance is there to stay. There's no doubt about that. The US needs Saudi Arabia, and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia needs the US. Let's not forget they have an alliance that is for more than 75 years. They have been cooperating in different issues. Let's not forget that Saudi Arabia, at the time when it was not fashionable for any country to be with the US at the time of the Cold War, etc., Saudi Arabia stuck with the United States in the Middle East, and they worked hard on putting an end to the Soviet and Marxist ideology. And also after that, let's also not forget the fact that the kingdom has provided the United States with cheap oil that allowed the US to be where it is right now. And let's also not forget the fact that Saudi Arabia and its efforts on combating terrorism was essential. And so that's why I always say Saudi Arabia was and will remain to be the golden key for solving most of the problems in the Middle East, specifically the security ones, specifically also the economic aspects of trade, etc. Saudi Arabia is the biggest trading partner of the United States in the Middle East and North Africa. And let's not also forget that Saudi Arabia is considered to be number 12 for the United States in terms of trade volume. Another thing is that, yes, we would love the United States to rectify its trajectory. We would love for the United States to be back to its traditional policy and to somehow find a way through which they can correct the mistakes that they have done, because it's unfortunate, as I said, that we are seeing the current administration to be copying exactly the same exact mistakes of the former President Obama.
So right now, Salman, I don't want to leave this aside. Russia, China, the warming of relations with Saudi Arabia because of the United States, possibly during the war. Your thoughts, what do you think?
In the Middle East, maybe people are not sharing the same kind of message or the same kind of narrative in the United States and the West. And I remember Richard Haas, like he said recently, he said that Mexicans have a common phrase. It goes, the US is our best friend, whether we like it or not. And that somehow should be the case, I believe, for any country that shares borders with a superpower, because it's like sleeping with an elephant in the same bed, and you don't know when will he turn over. So for the case of Russia and Ukraine, to be honest, was poking the elephant, or in this case, the Russian bear, I would call it. The Russian invasion is not justifiable at all. But at the same time, no one can entertain the idea that Russia didn't have serious security concerns. I see personally that the US to be somehow complicit in this issue, specifically the left, the Democratic Party. The US seemed to be working hard on dragging the Russians into the Ukrainian swamp and to, as they say, to fight Russia until the last Ukrainian. And if anyone asks what's in it for the US, I will say there are a lot of things, specifically like three major things. The target is not Russia per se, but to get the Europeans back to the US fold and to slow their economic engagement with both Russia and China. The second can be is to have a new energy deal between Europe and the US, primarily through LNG. The third is to deter China and to give them a signal of what they should expect as consequences if they ever dare to invade Taiwan or go against the US interests in the South China Sea. Let's not forget that the US has always maintained a cautious policy with regards to Ukraine. That all changed in 2014 when President Obama, based on some of the reports, engineered a coup in Kiev to oust the Kremlin favorite president, and then Russia definitely responded by annexing Crimea, etc. And then the US worked hard with the Ukrainian officials and intelligence community to curb all Russian influence in Ukraine. And that didn't happen in I would call it a halal or kosher way. That happened via the jailing of journalists, lawyers, and public servicemen who sympathize with Russia. Subsequently, the US pushed the EU and Ukraine to keep discussing the joining of NATO and the EU. By the way, most of the European nations were not actually very supportive of these moves, and I would consider them dangerous moves, but the US was pushing them, specifically the Democratic Party, because if you can remember the former President Trump, he was actually having a discussion with Zelensky in the White House, and he told him that he wished for Zelensky to find a way to solve his differences with Putin. So there was this kind of rational policy from the Republican Party to resolve the issues between Ukraine and Russia. And to put things into context, let's use a hypothetical example. Let's imagine that Russia or Russian policymakers decided to infiltrate Mexico, for example, using intelligence, then engineered a coup in Mexico City, and then built a Russian military base there with nuclear missiles directed at the US. How will the US react? I leave you to contemplate and answer this. And it's the same exact thing with regards to Ukraine and the Cuban missile crisis can somehow ring a bell with this.
You survived, Salman, an assassination